Hi everyone, Cyndi Olin here with Create Your Own Luck and Love, and welcome to the Successful Woman's Guide to Meet and Marry Her Man. And I'm so excited to introduce our returning guest, Bex Burton. She's also a dear friend of mine. I'm super excited to have you on today, Bex. And many of you know her. She's a relationship expert, much like me. And today, you guys, we're going to dive into a topic that you're going to want to grab some tea, coffee, whatever your favorite beverage of choice is, a notebook, and take some notes to as to what we're saying here, because we're going to talk about your energy around receiving the loving relationship that you desire, and frankly, you deserve it. So, hey, Max, welcome.
Hey, hi, everybody in the audience. Hello, love. Welcome.
Hello, love. Bring it on. So, when talking about that, what are, two things around your mindset? Because, ladies, mindset is huge when it comes to the receptivity of bringing in the right partner. So what are two things that you can recommend, just easy things that our women can do today to open up to the possibility of letting love in?
Oh, yes. Well, if we're going to just boil it down into two things, I mean, there's so many things, but for me, the two things that always come up around energy and mindset when we are receiving and attracting, the first thing that comes up for me is, are we connecting or are we disconnecting? Mm-hmm. And so what I mean by that is, before we started recording, Cyndi was sharing with me a story about a friend of hers who is struggling attracting her man. And she's got a friend who is quote unquote a nightmare. And she's looking at her.
We've all had them.
We've all had that nightmare friend. And she looks at the nightmare friend and she's like, my God, what is wrong with me if my friend, my nightmare friend, can attract extraordinary love, but like I can't, like what's wrong with me? So that is an example of disconnecting energy.
Right.
That you're disconnecting from the possibility that it's available to you. And she's in this state of disconnecting from her friend who's found it, disconnecting from that celebration, disconnecting from that possibility that that's actually evidence. So one of the practices that I bring the women that I work with into is, I like to call it becoming an evidence junkie. And that means when we're looking at an example of the very thing that we're hoping to attract into our life, instead of disconnecting from it and poo-pooing it and be like, oh, what the F, or I like to call it the eye roll moment. Oh, we notice that eye roll moment and notice that there's an opportunity right there to actually connect with that experience, to look at your friend, to look at what she's attracted into her life, and really recognize that right there is a beautiful example that what I want in my life exists, that it's possible. If it's available to her, my God, then it's totally available to me. So yeah.
I love that. And I think, another piece to add to that too, even if it's not the type of partnership that you desire, right? So many of us out there may have the nightmare friend or friend that we're like, okay, so this is happening for you. I don't desire that type of relationship, but remember, connecting energy is being happy for them and just as happy for that couple as you would be yourself. When you brought in the type of extraordinary love that speaks to you, that knows you, that sees you for you. So I just wanted to add that piece to it. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's certainly like, expanding on the connecting energy. Like I have a client who has historically attracted married men, and so much so now to the point that like whenever a married man even engages in conversation with her, she has that eye roll moment. She's like, oh, really? And for her, it's like, okay, well, of course she doesn't want to attract a married man. And like, of course she deserves a fully available man. At the same time, when she has that eye roll moment, when she's, when she's having that reaction, she's putting distance, because the universe doesn't see him as a married man. The universe just feels the vibration of her putting distance between her and men in general.
Right.
So for her, it's like, okay, you get to notice what you're noticing first and foremost. I want everybody write that down. Notice what you're noticing, because so often we're held hostage by our emotions, held hostage by our reactions. We don't even know what's happening. We don't even know what kind of vibration we're putting out there. So when we start to, I like to say, we're going to climb up into the lifeguard stand and look at the beach of our life, and look at all the little emotions bobbing up and down in the water, that gets to be our observational experience. We get to pull away from judgment, pull away from criticism, and just observe, notice what we're noticing when we're having a reaction that feels restrictive or discontented or frustrated. Just notice those restricting emotions and notice what you're noticing. And for her, the coaching is like, be in the spirit of appreciation that she's connecting with a man anyway, or like be in the spirit of, this is a married man. Here again is another example. This is evidence that high quality men who are interested in commitment exist. Like this,
Right. So
he may not be my guy, and that's okay, but I'm just going to welcome this interaction because this is evidence that what I desire exists, this committed high quality man. And there's this energy flowing towards me that I can say, okay, I'm next. I'm ready. I'm next.
So I love that piece. So you guys, I just want to reiterate this. Notice what you're noticing. So if you're seeing a married man that's approaching you in the supermarket or whatever, have a nice quality conversation with them. Smile, open up. I mean, I had a client that literally would have interactions with married men, and then she'd go, you know what? I just say, you seem really amazing, and my guess is that you have some amazing friends that might possibly be single. And I mean, she literally took it to the next level, and she had a few men go, as a matter of fact, I do. I have somebody in mind right now. Like, and they would literally just do, like they would do a text message connection or whatever, but it was happening to her in life, and she started just having fun and playing with it instead of going, wah, wah, another cute married man that isn't my guy. Well, open up to what could be possible, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And notice what's coming up for you. Do you notice yourself shutting down? Do you notice the proverbial eye roll? And, that attitude, just like Bex was saying, I just want to, reiterate this, you guys, you're putting that out into the universe. You're actually putting a repelling energy out to the universe. Or like, if we say, well, I'm not interested in men that don't want a commitment. I don't want these guys that are, you ever had your hand on your hip going, that don't want, to spend life together and have family and blah, blah, blah. Well, the universe hears that. And the universe actually hears, I don't want commitment. It feels the negativity. So watching that languaging with what you say, how you feel, because it can be shifted in like a New York minute, really. What's that song? Everything can change. It's true. So it's, when you notice that, your vibration instantaneously goes up, right? There's a old saying out there, water seeks like level. So like Bex was saying, if you find yourself attracting married men or attracting men that aren't available for a relationship or don't desire one, what is it that you're putting out there? Or where are you blocking yourself from fully opening up to receiving the love that you desire? Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, well, oh goodness, there's so much. I mean, what's coming up for me is, that block to receiving. I mean, that opens up like a whole other host of thoughts in that, especially for women, if we've been doing it on our own and we've been out there for a long time, we've been, holding all of our stuff together and doing the things and checking the boxes and making life happen. We're very much in this power do accomplishment state way of being, which makes it more difficult to receive and to relax and surrender and be open to your extraordinary love showing up and saying, hey, I'll take care of that for you. And so what comes up for me around that is engaging in practices in receiving, especially if you notice that this is a challenge for you, and things that are, it's just so simple or basic. I won't call them simple because it's not easy to make that shift into receiving, but they're basic things, like somebody offers you a glass of water, and instead of being like, oh no, I'm okay, like, even if you don't want the glass of water, just say yes, and like receive and take a moment and just be like, yes, and just like hang out in that yes. Somebody lets you merge on the highway, like I'm always waving, even though I have tinted windows, nobody can see me wave, but I'm always waving. I'm like, thank you. Yes. I'm so receiving that. Somebody gives me a compliment. Like, yes, I am so going to let that land. And I'm just going to like, I receive that. I even say that I receive that, and I receive that and I rub it in, like take it to the next level. But yeah, we absolutely have, like, just from our doing and our being in our masculine and being in our power, we definitely have blocks and walls up around receiving and allowing energy to flow to us. So,
and that's a really great point is, even if you don't want the glass of water, receive, because think about if you were to offer someone a glass of water, oh, here's some water for you. You have a house guest. And they go, no, it's okay. Do you ever start thinking that maybe your water's not any good? Or like, what's the problem? I mean, it might be subconscious, right? But it's, there's actually a proven study around when somebody asks you to get together. Let's say Bex was visiting San Diego and she's like, Cyndi, you want to go to the beach? And I'm like, oh no, I can't. I'm doing, I've got XYZ. And chances are Bex subconsciously will think next time before she asks me to get together again. It's it's a proven study that in fact people will ask you less. So even if you can't that day, right? Even if you've got a full schedule or whatever's going on, or you're not even in town, right? You could say, I could say this, oh, Bex, I would love to, and it's such a yes. And I get to be on the East Coast during that week. So unfortunately not, but oh my gosh, when can we Skype? I'd love to chat with you. And how long are you in San Diego? Maybe I can do it when I return. I mean, who knows? But if you have that energy, people are going to be like, yeah, I want to be around this girl.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that so much. And this is a funny story about my love attraction process, was that my walls were like higher than the sky when I was attracting my man. And like, I attracted a very persistent, diligent man who was like all about me. And this is the thing, is that like the man who's going to be in your life is going to be ready to move mountains. But my whole thing was like, he'd throw out a date. I'd be like, no, I can't meet up. No, I can't meet up. No, I'm busy. And it's like, do I really want this in my life or not? Like, am I putting that block up? And for me, there was a subconscious fear of like losing my independence and losing my
right.
time, my freedom, and and all of that. And
would my life really be better with him?
Exactly.
You think about that a lot too,
Yeah.
by the way, subconsciously.
Yeah. And I see that. I see that a lot in the women that I work with, that like, my life is just so busy. I don't know where I'm going to fit this dating thing in. And I'm like, well, okay, is it a priority? So if it is, then yes, we get to be flexible. We get to kind of loosen that white knuckle grip that we have around our schedule and our life, and how Tetrised everything is so beautifully and perfectly. And like, it's like, you get to allow this to flow, and you get to create the space for it. And if you're so like rigid with your calendar, then like you're absolutely going to be up against a block. So you get to have some freedom with it. You get to be a little loose, and you get to be open to receiving that just that flow and that energy.
So how did you open up to love then?
So like I said, my man is really persistent. And that's the thing, is that some of us need, some of us who are stubborn, or, like we might attract the really persistent man. And that's what was happening in my case. And, what happened was, there was something that came up on our first date, and he had to renegotiate our meetup location. And I was like, oh no, it's okay. We can reschedule. And he said, no, I want to meet up with you. Let's make this happen. Where are you right now? I will come to you. And I'm like, oh shit. All right. Well, I'm not going to work really hard for this. Come to the end of my block. There's a restaurant at the end of my block. Like, I'm telling you, my walls are up so high. And, and they started to come down when he was just so adamant and so persistent. He came to my neighborhood, and we had a really interesting first date, interesting and enjoyable and light and fun. And and there were certain things that I started to notice about him, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, yeah. Like, it just brick by brick, the wall was like slowly coming through, and then what got him the second date was, he said to me, he's like, so just like, he paid the bill. I noticed he was left-handed, which was cool because I'm left-handed too. And I look for little things like that, because that to me signifies big magic. If you've ever read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, that's what I look for and that's what symbolizes to me like divine partnership, when it's, just extraordinary circumstances, too wild to be considered coincidence. It's like we have all these crazy things in common. And then he says to me, so do you want to come out and look at my motorcycle? And I'm like, okay. And then he kissed me, and then we were second date. So yeah, I mean, but for sure, like I had to soften up around my bullheadedness about how busy I was and how important I was, and don't you know who I am? And like, girl, just check it, like I really had to check my ego.
That's a really important thing. It's like that those walls can go one of two ways. I mean, so I know a woman that, in fact, the woman that I was telling you about a little earlier, she is adorable and she has really high walls. And this is an archetype that I call the ice queen. So Bex was being an ice queen, like, I'm too busy. But this other woman, her walls are up differently. It's like she's a little shy, so she doesn't really put herself out there. So she's not being seen. Bex was being seen. She was just like, oh, I can't be bothered. And that's a little different, because it will attract a different man. Somebody like, I can't be bothered, that's going to attract a masculine hunter. Men are hunters by nature. So her man, Nick, was like, okay, let's do this. And so he's like, he wants to impress the girl. And Bex created the tension to, really create something amazing. Like, she wasn't, super easy. She was treating herself high value too. So understanding that, ladies. So the other woman I'm telling you about, she just has walls up around people even getting in. So when a guy tries, or a man tries to get in, he's typically predatory. He's trying to break her walls down. And men like that, sadly, they typically know that once they break her walls down, she'll fall for him and he'll have control or he'll leave. And it's a sick cycle, unfortunately. And, or there's a lot of variety of things that can happen with that, but it's really being, open. You might be an introvert, so it might be hard for you to talk to people, but practicing, right? Getting out there, like going to your local Starbucks and saying hi to the barista, remembering their name, being happy, smiling. It invites in positive energy, not predatory energy. Make sense? Anything you want to add to that?
Absolutely. Well, I also just want to put a caveat on like how much failure my approach had like for a very long time. Like I would, I'd have men give up because and I see this a lot in my clients, and the women that, it's funny because some of the women that I attract to work with have the same walls. They're very busy. They hold themselves in high value, which is beautiful, but then they don't have that space in their life, or that space in their heart or their energy to accept a man in. And when he can't see where he fits in, he's going to move on to the next woman who is welcoming and who has that runway cleared, and then Cyndi, you're talking about the kind of the other woman who's a more shy and reserved, and maybe her runway is like totally clear, but she's not showing up as like interested or engaged or welcoming or inviting in a very different way, and that's, she's kind of like wrapped up in her own experience of insecurity and fear and doubt. And in that case, in that instance, that's when you get to develop a radically outrageous relationship with yourself, because your love attraction process is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. And if you're, not sitting in a seat of confidence with who you are inherently, and if you're not like absolutely in love with yourself, and I don't mean like being perfect, because there's no such thing as perfection, but it's about being gentle with yourself and being compassionate with yourself and like loving yourself through the ups and downs, and that's what I mean by having an outrageously relationship with yourself.
And just to add to that, I agree. And that self-love and outrageously great relationship with yourself evolves. It never stops. It's continuous. It's that thing that's like, okay, we're going to this next level. We're going to this next vibration around it. And things will shift in your life. Your man will come in. He will see you. And I appreciate that you said, my approach was not working for a really long time.
And it wasn't even like a conscious approach. Like
it was like, it wasn't working. It was like, there was no intimacy. When somebody's caught up in busy energy, and a lot of you successful ladies are, so we get it. It's not a sign of abundance. It's not a sign that you really are inviting in full abundance in your life. Full abundance is an abundantly great relationship, boundaries around your business life, your personal life, your relationship with yourself. And is it always in balance? No. But it's a consciousness of being. And so that's what we're inviting you to do. And that mindset, believe me, you guys can take some of these beautiful morsels and start practicing them today and invite in just big love. So I'm excited, and I invite each and every one of you to do that. And I know Bex does too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was actually before we wrap, that was the second piece that, really comes up for me is, are we living in abundance mindset, or are we living in lack mindset? And like having your calendar so knitted so tightly that you can't schedule a date for 2.5 weeks is the energy of lack. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't have the time. I don't see where this is going to fit in, instead of like, okay, how is it possible? And that's one of my favorite games, and you guys can apply this to your life right now, but it's the game of, how can I possibly? When you see a block on your path or an obstacle, you, instead of like getting shut down and being like, well, I guess it's not meant to be, it's like, no, this is being presented to you for a reason, and maybe that reason is to walk through the fire of figuring your shit figuring it out. And how can I possibly is one of the ways that, like, I like to think of it as like, when we get into that place of, well, maybe it's not meant to be, like, it's like the visual that I get is you shut the door and you lock it, like deadbolt it 3 times. But when we start to play the how can I possibly game, you're wedging your foot in the door before it shuts, and you're just leaving open this little sliver of possibility. And that's where magic happens. So how can
Totally.
I possibly, and just like let it bubble up. It's not even that you have to have the answers, but you're just wedging your foot in the door so that the universe has the space for magic to flow through.
Yay, I love that. I love that. Big magic. So everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you took away a ton of great insight that you can apply to your love life immediately. And please go to just click on Bex's link with her very generous gift for all of us, or you guys, I should say. And I'm so excited to see you all next time on the Successful Woman's Guide to Meet and Marry Her Man. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your day, evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.